Spice and Harmony Across the Stars. Chapter 1, An Invitation from Beyond. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the worn wooden floor of Spice and Harmony. Dust motes danced in the golden light, highlighting the empty tables and the silence that hung heavy in the air. Alex Spice Garcia, hunched over a faded recipe book, sighed deeply. The rhythmic sizzle of a forgotten pot on the back burner only amplified the quiet desperation clinging to the once vibrant restaurant. Spice wasn't his real name, of course. It was a nickname bestowed upon him by his grandfather, a man who could conjure a symphony of flavors from the simplest ingredients. Alex, unlike his grandfather, seemed destined for mediocrity. His dream of rekindling the joy of cooking in a world choked by bland, mass-produced meals seemed like a fading ember. He slammed the recipe book shut, the worn pages whispering forgotten stories. A glance out the window revealed the familiar street, once bustling with curious faces drawn by the enticing smells wafting from his kitchen. Now it was just another monotonous stretch of concrete and glass, reflecting the monotony of his life. A sudden chime shattered the silence, making Alex jump. He whirled around, his eyes landing on a small, flickering hologram hovering above the counter. Curiosity sparked, replacing the dull ache in his chest. Hesitantly, he approached the projection. The holographic figure, tall and slender with iridescent blue skin, regarded him with an expression that could only be described as severe. Her voice, when it came, was surprisingly melodic. "Greetings, Alex Garcia," it intoned. "I am Zelia, commander of the Uranus fleet." Alex stared, his mind struggling to process the scene. Aliens? In his kitchen? Hi?" he stammered, feeling the heat rise on his cheeks. Zelia continued, seemingly oblivious to his flustered state. "We require your culinary expertise for a diplomatic dinner aboard our flagship. We extend a formal invitation. Your presence is requested at 1800 hours standard time." The hologram flickered, then dissolved with a soft pop. Alex remained rooted to the spot, the weight of the invitation settling upon him. A sense of bewilderment warred with a flicker of excitement. Zelia's words echoed in the silence. Culinary expertise. He looked around the dusty kitchen at the neglected spice rack, its colorful contents mocking his current state. Could he, Alex Spice Garcia, a man struggling to keep his restaurant afloat, truly have anything to offer an alien fleet commander? A spark, faint but persistent, ignited within him. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't another failed attempt to draw customers. Maybe, just maybe, this was a chance to reignite the flame, not just in his kitchen, but in his passion itself. With a new determination in his eyes, Alex set about preparing for his most important culinary challenge yet. Chapter 2, A Universe of Flavors. The sterile hum of the Uranus flagship filled Alex's ears as the automatic doors hissed open, revealing a stark contrast to the warmth of his own kitchen. The metal walls gleamed under harsh overhead lights, and the dining hall resembled a futuristic laboratory more than a place to enjoy a meal. Alex, bursting through the doorway with a flourish, was a walking explosion of color. His chef's whites, stained with battles past but meticulously ironed, stood out against the monochrome uniforms of the Uranus crew. He carried a sturdy wooden case overflowing with an array of jars and pouches, each bursting with vibrant colors and the promise of unknown flavors. Across the room, Zelia, commander of the Uranus fleet, sat stiffly at the head of a long metallic table. Her skin, a deep blue that shimmered faintly in the artificial light, remained impassive. Beside her, Grok, a smaller Uranus with large iridescent eyes that darted nervously around the room, fidgeted in his chair. A silence hung heavy in the air, broken only by the rhythmic whirring of ventilation shafts. Alex, unfazed by the imposing surroundings, cleared his throat and set down his case with a loud thud that echoed through the sterile room. "Commander Zelia," he began, his voice a touch too loud in the stillness, "thank you for inviting me aboard your magnificent ship." Zelia's expression remained unreadable. "Greetings, Chef Garcia," she responded in her melodic yet strangely monotone voice. "We trust your journey was uneventful?" Alex chuckled nervously. "Uneventful? Not quite. Spaceships are a bit bigger than my usual delivery truck." A weak smile flickered across his face, but it did little to break the ice. He gestured towards his case with a flourish. "Now this here is my arsenal," he said, popping open the latches. Inside, nestled in velvet compartments, lay spices from across known galaxies, fiery red chilies next to emerald green cardamom pods, plump cloves nestled amongst star-shaped star anise. Each held the promise of a unique culinary adventure, a story waiting to be told. As Alex began to meticulously arrange the spices on the table, explaining their origins and flavors with passionate enthusiasm, Zelia's gaze narrowed. Grok, however, leaned forward, his eyes widening in what could have been either fear or curiosity. "And this," Alex announced, brandishing a heavy mortar and pestle, "is the tool that unlocks the true symphony of these flavors." He demonstrated the grinding motion, the rhythmic clanging echoing in the quiet room. Zelia's hand, previously resting calmly on the table, tensed. Grok squeaked in his seat, and his gaze darted towards Zelia, then back to the mortar and pestle. A flicker of suspicion clouded Zelia's blue eyes. "A symphony, you say?" she inquired, her voice laced with something that could only be described as caution. Alex, completely oblivious to the shift in atmosphere, beamed. "Absolutely, Commander. Just wait till you taste the dance of these spices on your tongue." He reached for a gleaming knife, its sharp edge glinting under the harsh lights. Zelia's hand shot up in a gesture that could have been interpreted as a stop sign or a defensive shield. Grok let out a strangled sound that could have been a gasp or a whimper. A tense silence descended, the only sound now the rhythmic hum of the ship. The stage was set for a dinner that promised to be anything but a harmonious culinary experience. Chapter 3, A Symphony of Confusion. The tension in the sterile dining hall hung thick enough to slice. Zelia's hand hovered a hair's breadth above the roasted chicken, her blue fingers trembling slightly. Alex watched her, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Across from him, Grok squirmed in his seat, his gaze darting nervously between the commander and the plate. Finally, Zelia made a decision. With a swift, almost clinical movement, she speared a tiny morsel of chicken and brought it to her lips. The room held its breath as she chewed, her face an unreadable mask. Seconds stretched into an eternity before she swallowed, her expression remaining stoic. Alex, unable to bear the silence any longer, blurted out, "Well, what do you think?" Zelia set down her fork slowly, the clink against the metallic plate echoing loudly. "It is interesting," she finally said, her voice devoid of emotion. "The aroma is certainly strong." Alex's smile faltered. Interesting? Was that all? He'd envisioned gasps of delight, exclamations of wonder at the explosion of flavors. Instead, all he got was interesting. Disappointment gnawed at him, but he pushed it down. Maybe the chicken wasn't the best introduction. He cleared his throat and reached for another serving dish. "Don't worry, Commander," he said, forcing a smile. "I have a variety of dishes planned. You're bound to find something you like." He placed a steaming bowl in front of Zelia, filled with a vibrant green curry adorned with slivers of red pepper and fragrant white rice. "This is a Thai green curry," he explained, his voice regaining some of its earlier enthusiasm. "It's a bit milder than the chicken, but still packed with flavor." Zelia eyed the curry with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. This time, however, she didn't hesitate as long. She picked up a spoon and took a small bite. As the curry touched her tongue, a flicker of surprise crossed her face. Her eyes widened slightly, and her posture relaxed ever so subtly. She chewed slowly, her brow furrowed in concentration. Grok, unable to contain himself any longer, leaned forward, his gaze fixated on Zelia's face. Finally, Zelia spoke, her voice barely a whisper. "It's different," she said. "There's a warmth, a complexity I haven't experienced before." Alex's heart soared. This was it. This was the reaction he'd been hoping for. He launched into a passionate explanation of the curry's ingredients, the history of Thai cuisine, the delicate balance of sweet, savory, and spicy. As Alex spoke, Zelia continued to eat, her initial apprehension replaced by a hesitant curiosity. Grok, emboldened by the commander's change of heart, cautiously tried the curry himself. His eyes lit up as the flavors hit his tongue, a surprised gasp escaping his lips. The tension in the room began to dissipate, replaced by a tentative sense of camaraderie. The clinking of silverware once again filled the air, but this time with a different rhythm, the rhythm of exploration, of discovery. However, amidst the newfound curiosity, a nagging suspicion lingered in Celia's gaze. The flavors on her tongue might have been a revelation, but the way Alex handled the spices, the way his eyes gleamed with passion, it all seemed a little too much. The delicious mystery of the human meal had just begun. Chapter 4. A spark of recognition. Dejection gnawed at Alex as he cleared the plates of the stir-fry. The initial curiosity in Zelia's eyes had dimmed, replaced by a stoic neutrality. Grok's enthusiasm, while delightful, wasn't enough to mask the sense of failure settling in Alex's stomach. He'd poured his heart and soul into this meal, each dish a carefully crafted ambassador from Earth's culinary heritage. Yet it seemed the Uranus palate wasn't ready for the explosion of flavors he'd hoped to share. With a defeated sigh, he began clearing the table, the clatter of dishes echoing in the sterile silence. Perhaps, he mumbled more to himself than anyone else, human food just isn't for everyone. Just then, Zelia cleared her throat, her voice cutting through the disheartened silence. "Chef Garcia," she began, her gaze surprisingly gentle. "There's something you haven't served yet, isn't there?" Alex paused, his head snapping up. He hadn't expected her to notice. Hesitantly, he admitted, "There was one more course planned, Commander. A simple dish, a classic from my childhood." A flicker of curiosity crossed Zelia's blue face. "Simple, you say?" Alex nodded. "Very simple. Just a fragrant curry, vegetables bathed in a creamy coconut sauce." He explained the dish further, highlighting the familiar ingredients like potatoes and carrots, seasoned with a blend of spices specifically toned down for Uranus palates. "Would you like to try it, Commander?" he asked, a sliver of hope flickering within him. Zelia remained silent for a moment, her gaze fixed on something beyond the dining hall. Then, with a slow nod, she said, "Yes, Chef Garcia, we would like to try it." A surge of renewed energy coursed through Alex. He hurried to the kitchen, his movements fueled by a newfound determination. This was his last chance to show them the true potential of human cuisine. Moments later, he returned with a steaming pot of curry, the aroma of fragrant spices filling the air. He served Zelia and Grok first, watching their faces intently as they brought the first spoonful to their lips. Grok, ever the eager one, took a large bite. His eyes widened comically, then narrowed as the spices hit his tongue. He gasped, a strangled sound halfway between a yelp and a surprised giggle. Zelia, on the other hand, approached the curry with a cautious curiosity. She took a small bite, her brow furrowed in concentration. Chewing slowly, her expression remained unreadable for a beat too long. Then a change. A flicker of surprise crossed her face, followed by a hesitant smile. Her eyes fluttered closed, and for a moment, she seemed lost in the experience. Grok, momentarily forgetting his discomfort, leaned forward, watching her with wide, inquisitive eyes. Finally, Zelia opened her eyes, a wave of genuine warmth washing over her usually stoic features. "This," she began, her voice filled with a newfound wonder, "this is delicious." A wave of relief washed over Alex. It wasn't the fiery explosion he'd initially envisioned, but it was enough. It was a spark of recognition, a glimmer of understanding that transcended the sterile walls of the Uranus flagship and touched something deeper within Zelia. The simple curry may not have been a symphony, but it was the first note in a new song, a song of cultural exchange, of shared experiences, and of the awakening of a palate long dormant. The seeds of a beautiful friendship, forged over a plate of fragrant curry, had just been sown. Chapter 5. A shared language. A ripple of laughter, unexpected and delightful, broke the tension that had hung heavy in the air. Grok, tears welling in his large, iridescent eyes, dabbed at his mouth with a napkin. Zelia, a genuine smile gracing her blue face, chuckled softly, a sound that seemed to echo through the sterile dining hall. "Chef Garcia," Zelia admitted, her voice filled with a newfound warmth, "you have a most interesting way with spices. Initially, I feared you were wielding some sort of culinary weapon." Alex, his heart lighter than it had been in weeks, burst out laughing. "Weapon? Never! Spices are meant to bring people together, to create a symphony of flavors on the tongue." As they talked, the initial formality melted away, replaced by a sense of camaraderie. Celia explained the blandness of Orana's cuisine, a result of their reliance on nutrient-rich but flavorless rations for generations. Grok, emboldened by the relaxed atmosphere, regaled them with tales of ancient Oranus legends that spoke of a time when food was a celebration, not just sustenance. News of the successful dinner spread like wildfire through the Oranus fleet. The notion of humans, known throughout the galaxy for their bland fare, creating such an explosion of flavors on alien taste buds, was a story too good not to share. Soon the news reached the wider galactic union, sparking curiosity and a touch of disbelief. Back on Earth, the media frenzy was even more intense. Alex Spice Garcia, the once struggling chef, was hailed as a culinary hero. His restaurant, Spice and Harmony, became a pilgrimage site for curious aliens, eager to experience the wonders of human cuisine. The once dusty tables were now perpetually filled with a vibrant mix of species, their laughter and chatter creating a symphony of its own. The newfound fame, however, came with its own challenges. Many aliens, despite their initial enthusiasm, struggled with the intensity of human spices. Their taste buds, adapted to less complex flavors, were overwhelmed by the sheer variety. One evening, amidst the throng of alien customers, Zelia and Grok returned. Alex, overwhelmed by the demands of his newfound fame, was initially hesitant, but Zelia surprised him with a shy smile. "Chef Garcia," she said, her voice filled with a newfound respect, "we have a problem." She explained the limitations of the Uranus palate, a genetic quirk that left them lacking the necessary taste receptors to fully appreciate human food. Alex listened intently, a determined glint in his eyes. "Challenge accepted," he declared, a familiar spark of passion rekindled. He wouldn't let a mere genetic limitation stand in the way of culinary understanding. Thus began Alex's quest for the universal spice blend, a carefully crafted combination of flavors that could tantalize human and alien palates alike. He spent months poring over ancient cookbooks, researching exotic spices, and tirelessly experimenting in his kitchen. Grok, ever the eager assistant, provided invaluable feedback, his enthusiastic yelps and startled gasps a constant source of amusement. Finally, after countless failures and a few near-disastrous kitchen fires, Alex emerged victorious. The universal spice blend wasn't a fiery explosion, but a subtle symphony, a delicate dance of flavors that resonated with human and alien taste buds alike. The day Alex unveiled his creation was a day of celebration. Aliens and humans, united by their love of food, gathered in Spice and Harmony. As the laughter and chatter filled the air, a vision danced in Alex's mind. A future galactic society where food transcended species and cultures. A delicious testament to human ingenuity and the unifying power of spice. The seeds of a galactic culinary revolution had been sown, and Alex Spice Garcia, the once struggling chef, was its unlikely hero.